I can relate to that, I said. We grabbed coffee and sat at a table talking about the challenges of single parenthood. When I decided to take a chance, I said, Rhonda, I'm new to this whole dating scene, but would you like to have dinner with me sometime? Maybe this Friday? She thought for a moment, smiled, and nodded. Yes, Tom, I'd like that, she said. Where would you like to go? I asked. I don't know, she said. I'd like to try the new Texas Roadhouse restaurant. Do you like it? I'd love a steak, she said. Sure, that sounds tempting. Maybe we can go to a movie or something later. Great, I said. I can pick you up at 6:30 if that's okay with you. That sounds wonderful, she said. You can bring the girls and they can stay with Linda if that's okay with you. They had known each other for a long time and were already friends, so I thought it was a good idea. Sounds good to me, I said. The girls were excited about my date with Rhonda, and they liked the idea of spending the evening with Linda, so it was all set. That Friday, I invited the girls over, and we went out to dinner. Rhonda looked nice in her denim skirt, and we had a great time. We didn't get romantic that night, but she gave me a warm hug when I stopped in front of her house. I noticed 3 sets of eyes watching us from the window of her house, and I thought I saw them giving each other high fives. That was the best night I've had in months, Rhonda said as I hugged her. Same here, I said. What if we do it again sometime soon? Maybe we'll send the girls to a movie and we'll stay home and relax, she added, smiling warmly. I think you're onto something, I said, feeling a familiar excitement. The girls were happy about our date, and I had to admit that I was feeling good about it too, enjoying the time with Rhonda. I'm not sure if anything long-term will come of this, but I'm willing to see where it goes. Reflecting on the past, I can't help but wonder what you would have done in my shoes. Could you forgive and rebuild, or would you choose the path I took, seeking justice and a new beginning? I'd love to hear your thoughts and stories. Have you ever faced a betrayal so deep? Share your experiences. Your journey, like mine, might just inspire someone else to find their way through the darkness. I became increasingly anxious as their joint mission to win a big client approached. Thoughts of a possible romantic relationship between them crossed my mind, but Lily always reassured me. Taking my bag out of the overhead compartment, I pondered how to invite Lily to dinner without giving away the surprise. After taking a taxi to my hotel, I chatted with the driver, who mentioned a charming, dimly lit restaurant located between our 2 hotels. Sounds intriguing, I said, as it was exactly what I had in mind. After checking in, I quickly showered and rushed out. I wanted to catch Lily before she left for dinner. Glancing at the clock in the lobby, I saw it was almost 5:30. After observing the bustling street, I decided to walk to my destination and followed the receptionist's directions. The route was easy, and I remembered the charming restaurant the taxi driver mentioned just a few steps from her hotel. When I exited the taxi, I left the driver a generous tip. At 5:50, I entered the hotel lobby and stood in line at one of the reception desks. I exchanged a smile with a woman who motioned for me to come forward. Hello, I greeted her warmly. My name is Sam Clark. I'd like to know if my wife, Lily Clark, is in her room right now. If so, I'd appreciate the chance to talk to her. Lily Clark, you said? She double-checked, consulting her notes. Yes, she's a guest here. Give me a minute to check if she's in her room. With that, she dialed the room number. After a while, she turned to me with an apologetic tone. I'm sorry, sir, but there was no answer. Would you like to leave a message? Not at the moment, I replied, a hint of disappointment in my voice. I was hoping to surprise her. We have an anniversary tomorrow. I'd appreciate it if you didn't mention our conversation, I requested. No problem, sir, I assure you, she reassured me. I wish you a wonderful day tomorrow, sir, she added politely. Thanks, I'm thinking about going to a restaurant. Maybe luck will be on my side, I responded. Good night, I said, bidding her farewell. Heading to the far end of the lobby, I spotted a noisy hall packed with people working, serving, sitting, and eating. It was very crowded, and I knew the chances of finding her there were slim. Then I noticed a restroom located on one side, closer to the back wall. I searched all around, scanning left and right, desperately looking for any sign of her presence. Despite my efforts, she remained elusive. After finishing my business, I settled near the corridor entrance and once again scanned the room. It seemed futile. Finding her in such a crowded place was nearly impossible. But then, I unexpectedly caught a faint sound of laughter that sounded like her. I followed the wall with my eyes, but towering booths obstructed my view, allowing only glimpses of faces. Reluctant to approach any table until I could escape her notice, I retraced my steps and turned my gaze toward the wall, slowly making my way along the row of tables one by one. I reached the third table from the corridor where I was standing, and there, in that very booth, I saw her. Lily sat there, engrossed in conversation with a man I did not recognize. She looked radiant, dressed in the same elegant dress she always wore on evenings out. Their interactions seemed relaxed, as if they were completely at ease in each other's company. I could not help but wonder what was really going on between them. It seemed far more intimate than a typical dinner with a colleague. My heart raced as he leaned closer to her, prompting me to instinctively grasp the door frame for support. As she bent down, their lips met in a tender kiss, filling me with a whirlwind of emotions. I decided to leave the doorway and move to the center of the hall, sinking into one of the padded chairs with a high backrest. Time seemed to blur as I sat there, never taking my eyes off their table. Suddenly, her laughter rang out again, drawing my attention. Turning my head, I saw her walking beside him, her hands tightly clasping his arm. Their closeness and the general atmosphere of warmth piqued my curiosity. They strolled past me, just 15 feet away, and even though they were talking, I couldn't help but focus on the adoring look she gave him. It had been ages since I had seen such an affectionate expression from her. My breath caught in my throat, and I felt momentarily speechless. Determined to get to the bottom of this, I walked straight to the sidewalk. I couldn't tear my eyes away from them as she clung to his arm, leaning against him like they were the only two people in the world. I watched as they walked down the street, eventually turning a corner and disappearing into a restaurant I had noticed earlier. Snapping out of my daze, I hurried to the door, trying to be inconspicuous. I took a few deep breaths, trying to steady my nerves. There was something meaningful in the way they looked at each other, something I needed to understand. Summoning my courage, I pushed open the door and cautiously entered, staying close to the wall. The entrance was unattended, so I stood there for a moment, letting my eyes adjust to the dim lighting. Scanning the room, I finally spotted them at a table for two at the far end. I made my way there, keeping close to the walls. As I sat down at a small table, a waitress appeared behind me. "What can I get for you, dear?" she asked. "Double scotch on the rocks," I replied. I could overhear their conversation. "Our meeting tomorrow isn't until 10 o'clock, so we can celebrate late into the night," he said to Lily in a hushed tone. "I'm glad you didn't let him guilt you into going home." "We wouldn't miss our 2-month anniversary for anything," she exclaimed. "I can't believe it's been 2 months," he remarked. "If only you had accepted my offer at the end of my first week at work." She laughed and added, "I had to play the innocent girl with you, considering that I'm supposedly married." She shook her head, reminiscing about the moment he approached her, fully aware of her marital status. "Marge actually told me that you liked me," he mentioned. "We should do something nice for her because she played a significant role in bringing us together," Lily suggested. The waitress served their drinks and swiftly walked away. They raised their glasses in a toast. "To the incredible 2 months we've had together and the many more to come," he said. "I'll do whatever it takes," he said as their glasses clinked together. "There will be many more," she replied cheerfully. The waitress placed my glass in front of me and asked, "Is that all?" I handed her a $100 bill and said, "Thank you, ma'am," before turning my attention back to them. They glanced up, but as strangers, my presence seemed unimportant. Lily, noticing his gaze, turned and looked at me. "A guy should always carry a camera for moments like these," I remarked. Her expression was truly captivating, perfect for various posters. As she sat there, lips moving soundlessly, I thought, wow, 2 months, this is a special anniversary. I still remember mine, but after 11 years it loses its novelty. Watching them both, I found myself saying, "Let's celebrate 2 months. It's a symbol of passion and prosperity, isn't it? A lovely couple like you deserves a gift, so here's my offer," I said, tossing the ring in Lily's direction. "And here's a surprise," Paul interrupted, causing Lily to gasp loudly. Realizing that staying here any longer would lead to trouble, I turned to Lily, who was trying to calm him down, and said, "Tell him how lucky he is that he wasn't in my home. Please contact me and let me know where you'd like to receive your belongings. If you're wise, you'll avoid coming to my house. Applying ice to your nose might reduce the discomfort," I stated, then turned and left. Leaving the restaurant, I walked briskly back to the hotel. Lily didn't know my current address, and given my actions toward her friend, it seemed unlikely she would try to follow me. I rushed into the lobby and approached the front desk. "Excuse me, do you have contact numbers for airlines? I urgently need to book a plane ticket," I asked. The employee replied, "Certainly, sir. May I inquire about your preferred airline and departure time and destination?" After providing all the necessary information, she assured me she would inform me about the flight details in my room. Back in the room, I paced back and forth, bewildered by the night's events. How could this have happened? A thought struck me. Maybe Lily had missed her true calling. Her performance over the past few months had been award-worthy. Frustration mounting, I realized I couldn't stay in the room any longer. Grabbing my bag, I rushed downstairs to the lobby. The receptionist, who had just finished a phone call, motioned for me to approach. "Sir, if you leave now, you might make the last flight today. Registration closes in 30 minutes. If you miss it, the next flight is in 3 hours," she told me. I thanked her, hoping the taxi drivers were reliable. I signed the cash receipt handed to me by the woman. "I'm sorry to cut my visit short. Please stay with us next time," she said warmly as I headed for the exit. A rush of memories washed over me. I quickly grabbed a taxi from the nearby parking lot. "I bet you $1.50 you can get me to the airport in under 30 minutes, I said as I took my seat. The driver responded, "You got it, boss," snapping me back to reality. He was experienced and got me there in 20 minutes. I paid the fare, added a generous $150 tip, expressed my gratitude, and hurried to the exit. Reflecting later, I realized I had a few minutes to spare. After passing security, I eagerly awaited the boarding announcement. Unlike before, I didn't need music to distract me. A funny thought crossed my mind, and I had to suppress a laugh. I remembered Lily's mother never really liked me. While Deborah seemed to control her husband, she treated Greg poorly, almost like he didn't matter. But I couldn't tolerate her behavior, and she knew it. One day, she even accused me of eventually cheating on Lily, claiming she saw me glancing at other women when we were together. Throughout the flight, doubts gnawed at me. I pulled out the photo I always carried of Lily and me and studied it. The person next to Lily suddenly seemed unfamiliar. I glanced around, then returned my gaze to the photo. In the picture, I stood beside Lily, but the way she gazed into his eyes made me doubt everything. Although men aren't typically known for their memory, I considered myself an exception. Lily often tested my memory, asking, "Do you remember this?" or "Do you remember that?" Unfortunately for her, I remembered everything. Every conversation, every plan, all the secrets whispered in the dark. Sitting there now, I couldn't help but wonder if I hadn't noticed this for 2 months. What else had I missed? The man had shown interest in her from the first week they met, but she claimed she rejected his advances. The thought of them together bothered me. I formulated a plan. I'd go home, pack her things, and take them to her mother's. The elderly woman would blame me, but the truth was what I saw. When we arrived at the airport, I felt a sense of finality. Our family life was falling apart, and I drove home in a daze. The whole journey was a blur, and I couldn't recall much of it. The duration didn't matter. I just needed to get home. Stepping into the dimly lit house, I felt an unsettling sense of unfamiliarity. This place, once my sanctuary, now felt foreign. Dropping my bag by the door, I headed straight to the kitchen, turning on the answering machine as I passed by. A pleading voice came through. "Sam, please don't do anything rash. I'm coming home to talk. Please wait until I get there." Her voice was full of pain, but I wasn't in the mood to hear it. Anger surged through me, and I impulsively slammed my fist on the counter. I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep, so I went to the garage to gather all the suitcases Lily had collected over the years. I chose a large black suitcase and a bag for her clothes, setting them aside while taking the rest to the bedroom. As I sifted through her closet, I carefully picked a few items and quickly stuffed them into one of the large bags, repeating the process several times before turning my attention to the dresser. It had been ages since I'd seen her underwear tucked in there. For a fleeting moment, the idea of grabbing some hot dogs crossed my mind, but I dismissed it. I was supposed to go to her mother's house, but I didn't want to face anyone. Instead, I impulsively went to the hardware store to buy new locks. Upon returning home, I realized I couldn't leave the pile of her stuff in the front room, so I loaded everything into the car and headed to her mom's house. I drove carefully and unloaded everything near the garage, not wanting to burden Greg with extra work. As the third box fell to the ground, my mother-in-law, Deborah, appeared. "Hi, Sam. What's all this? What's going on?" she asked. I replied, "When Lily arrives, she might need her clothes." Initially, I thought she'd bring them herself, but I couldn't wait any longer. They were cluttering the front room. Confused and with a pale face, she asked, "What do you mean when Lily arrives? I thought she wasn't in town yet. Why would her things be here?" "Deborah, I'm not entirely sure how she plans to sort things out, but I assume she might stay with you temporarily. She may be considering moving in with the person she's been spending time with, but I can't say for sure. That's why I brought her stuff," I explained. Seeing her face grow paler, she responded, "What are you implying? How can you accuse my daughter of such things? She had to stay there for work. She'd never cheat on you." Her voice trembled with hysteria. "I even saw them together last night. They looked happy, celebrating their 2-month anniversary at a lively nightclub near their hotel. I repeatedly asked her to join me at home for our anniversary, and she regretfully said she couldn't. Determined, I hopped on a plane to be with her. However, when I arrived, I found them having an intimate dinner. The atmosphere was romantic, and I didn't want to intrude on their special moment. Besides witnessing their tender kisses across the table, I needed some time to gather my thoughts. When they passed me in the hotel lobby, I contemplated saying something, but she gazed at him and whispered in his ear. At that moment, I couldn't bring myself to disrupt them either. I just needed some fresh air, so I stepped outside. To my surprise, they left and headed to the nearest nightclub. I sat at a table nearby and overheard her saying she didn't want to leave him on their 2-month anniversary, and he corrected her, saying it was their 3rd month. It dawned on me that if I wanted to leave, I'd have to intervene. I tried to stay inconspicuous, but I knew I had to find evidence. After 10 years of sobriety, I took my first sip of alcohol. It had been 10 years since Lily expressed concern about my drinking, believing it could jeopardize our marriage. In response, I gave her my wedding ring, thinking it was a sensible gesture to give each of them something of their own. But honestly, I preferred his gift over mine. Now, as I awaited her return and the inevitable dramatic confrontation, I was sure she'd seek shelter at my doorstep for a while. "You're lying! How can you say such things about your wife, whom you've been with for 11 years? She's told me everything." "She's deeply troubled by it," Deborah exclaimed, her voice rising with each word. "I'll never refer to this woman as my wife again. You might feel obligated to support her because she's your daughter, but I have no such obligations. I witnessed everything firsthand, and for the past 2 months I've been living alone while she's been living with him since he joined this company. It's astonishing to see how she's changed, given the upbringing you provided." She looked me in the eye for 3 months straight, lying to me every day without a hint of remorse. "If you think I'll allow her back into my home, then you're even more foolish than she is. However, it's your choice what to believe, and that's your issue. Personally, I've chosen to cut my losses. It's clear that she has strong feelings for this guy, and he's free to have her. She won't need to hide their relationship anymore. As soon as she's done with her charades, I'll direct her to this place. You can see for yourself who's being dishonest," I stated. "If she picks up, be sure to convey the message exactly as you want. including the fact that I'm eager to see how she handles this, I instructed her. With those words, I got into the car and drove away. Feeling restless, I wandered aimlessly around the house for several hours before finding a small corner in the garage where I set up an improvised workspace. Suddenly, my thoughts were interrupted by the sound of the doorbell. Curiosity got the better of me, and I went to the door and opened it carefully. Without saying a word, I instinctively took a step back. Lily entered the room, and I immediately realized I was in the garage. "You must have been in the garage," she remarked, closing the door behind her. "I tried knocking, but you didn't hear me." "I was just tidying up," I responded, observing the room's condition. Lily sighed and said, "Well, Mom already called me. It looks like you've already made up your mind about what to do with me." Lily looked at me, her face a mix of sadness and disappointment. "What did you expect? That I wouldn't mind you having an affair?" I asked her. She paused before responding, "I guess I wasn't thinking clearly, at least not rationally." I was overwhelmed by disappointment. "It's a shame because all I did was think," I confessed. "You see, there was no one around to distract me from my thoughts. I missed having someone to go out to dinner with, visit a club, and enjoy the darkness, whispering and kissing. But I was left with a woman who could deceive me without hesitation, even looking me straight in the eye. She could share my house, my food, my life, and then be close with someone else. Not a pleasant image, right? Are you really ready to let go of 11 years of our life together? What is it?" she asked. "Did you even bother to ask me about it, Sam? Would it have bothered you if I had a real relationship with someone else instead of just playing games?" I thought that such an important question would stay with me, but it doesn't seem to matter anymore, does it? Now you and the person whose name I can't even remember can move on freely without caring about me. No more struggles over deciding whom to spend our anniversary with, I said, heading for a chair. "I think I understand your perspective," Lily replied. "Do you truly understand, Lily? Because I genuinely doubt that you do. You see, for you, it was just an act of infidelity. You probably found a way to justify it, maybe even shifting the blame onto me. Could it have been my actions that drove you to be involved with someone else?" I inquired. She lowered her head and replied, "No, I don't blame you for this. It just happened." Having an affair with someone other than a spouse for 2 months isn't an accident. It takes effort and, moreover, secrecy, I said, concluding our conversation. "Continuing the affair requires a lot of effort, Lily, and you've certainly put in the work. I loved you with everything I had, and it's astounding how you both found the time for this deceit. I can't fathom how it feels to laugh about cheating on me, and that tearful phone call last night was a performance worthy of an Oscar. Maybe you should consider acting. You'd easily outshine the last 3 Oscar winners." I had a brief moment of uncontrollable laughter, a quick, unintended outburst before I stopped. "I don't know where it came from, but it's clear you don't love me if this is how you treat someone you claim to love." "Spare me your anger. How can you believe that I don't love you after 11 years?" she protested, sounding indignant. "Listen, Lily, since you enjoy asking questions, here's one for you. Given your deep introspection, you know how you usually react to various situations. Imagine I found out you had a fling with another man, just a one-time thing, not a long-term affair. How do you think I would react?" I asked. She leaned in and softly replied, "Honestly, I think I would have asked you to leave and start divorce proceedings." I nodded, appreciating her honesty, even though I expected it. "I figured you'd react that way, maybe even throw something at me," I said, giving a faint smile. "Perhaps," she acknowledged. "And now, imagine that for nearly 3 months, every day we spent together meant nothing to me. It was all an act, a charade to make you believe our relationship was thriving. In reality, I was just going through the motions, while my heart belonged to someone else, spending entire days with my mistress. Can you honestly believe that I love you after nearly 13 years? Show some confidence, Lily. You're acting like this situation doesn't matter to you. The time we spent together was valuable to me. It wasn't just casual conversation. I genuinely enjoyed being with you," she said. "Do you remember the last time we were close, Lily? When was the last time you initiated one of our affectionate moments? When did you last act like my wife? After what I've seen and heard, I find it hard to believe you're standing here saying you love me. I'm not naive. I heard you talking about him with Marge as soon as he arrived at the office, and then you both decided to give her a gift for bringing you two together. It seems like you've already found your next bridesmaid. All that's left is to find his best man, and the wedding can commence, I said, leaning back in my chair. So, are you just like me now? Should I expect a process server at my door? Lily asked. What's your plan, Lily? Where are you going to live? You won't find a process server waiting to deliver divorce papers. I've reserved that pleasure for myself. The case is closed. Move on from me and don't look back. If you see me with someone else, don't interfere, I said firmly. What are you trying to prove? Lily asked. I don't need to prove anything to you. What I did for myself, not for you. Why would I fight for someone who respected me so little, thinking I would tolerate or excuse this treatment? When I gave you the ring, it was a clear sign that it was over. I don't want to waste energy on something that no longer matters. I can't forget or forgive based on your actions. It's clear I'm not a priority to you, so it's time for me to leave you and move on. I don't know what you expected, but you ruined everything. Now go stay with him, I said, locking eyes with her. You're kicking me out and keeping everything? That seems unfair after 11 years, she replied. It always comes down to a deal, doesn't it? If you need a house, you'll have to buy it. As for me, I want to keep the house. I've fallen in love with it. With the extra space, I can finally transform it into what I truly want. I assume you and Paul had found a place, I said. His name is Paul, she corrected. I couldn't care less. Do you think he has nowhere to live, I asked. Of course he does, she responded. Problem solved, I remarked. So I guess you don't think his wife will agree to this arrangement, I said, noticing her expression. Wait, did you find out everything about him? How did you know he was married? She asked, genuinely surprised. This isn't a joke. You really think I'm that naive? Why else would you be here, Lily? So what's the deal? He doesn't want to divorce his wife for you? Did you seriously think you could come back to me? I've thought about it a lot. Our relationship lasted 11 years, but we're done. This decision was yours. Let's reminisce about those incredible 2 months you spent together and hope for even more. When I gave you the ring, it was the end. Please stop making excuses about our 11-year history. Those years didn't matter to you, and they don't matter to me now. I'll settle those 11 years with legal documents as soon as they're ready. The house offer remains. If you don't want to leave, come back and take what you need. It looks like you're ready to move on without hesitation. Divorce me and go on your way. I can't trust you anymore. What's your plan? Do you want to keep the house? No, I don't want the house. Give me a few days to find a new place and I'll take some of the furniture, she said. She pulled her hand out of her pocket and handed me the ring. What should I do with this? She asked. Do whatever you want with it. Oh, I have an idea. Why not wear it as a toe ring? It would fit perfectly on your big toe, given how you treated him. You might actually find some use for it, I suggested with a hint of sarcasm. Maybe I'll pawn it for some extra cash, she retorted. Well, good luck with that. They buy these things by weight, and you probably won't even get $100. You can't buy a real gold ring for that price. But hey, it's your ring, so do what you want, I said, turning towards the door. Did you get all my stuff out of the closet? She asked. Yes, I got everything, though I was a bit annoyed with all the furniture in the way. I'll call you in a few days. I didn't pack your things very neatly, so I hope you still have some clean, unwrinkled clothes after the trip, I replied. Can I take a look? She inquired. Sure, go ahead, you know where everything is, I said, noticing a slight frown on her face. I waited patiently as she inspected the room, rummaging through the bedroom, the closet, and finally the bathroom. A few minutes later, she returned downstairs, hastily packing cosmetics into a floral zip-up bag. You were thorough. You only missed a few things. I might need to call you when it's time to move, she said with a forced smile. Of course, I'd be happy to help as long as it's not too close to me, I replied, smiling as I got up to open the door for her. When she suggested going for a walk, I paused, considering her request, then an idea struck me. Wouldn't it be too much to ask you to run instead? I inquired, keeping a serious expression. Kiss me on the spot, she replied, turning to leave. I wouldn't dare kiss someone who knows where she's been, I retorted, closing the door behind her. That was the last time we communicated. 3 months later, my lawyer finalized all the necessary divorce documents and instructed me to pick them up from his office. My schedule included 2 stops, the lawyer's office and my mother-in-law's house, to get Lily's signature. After parking at her house, I took a moment, staring at the familiar facade, knowing this would be the final task. Eventually, I would find peace and quiet nights again once this chapter was closed. I rang the doorbell and my mother-in-law answered. "Sam, what brings you here? What's going on?" she asked. "I thought you had forgotten about us already." "Not yet. Is Lily here?" I inquired. "Yes, she's here. Come on in," she replied, closing the door behind me. A few moments later, Lily entered the room. "Lily, I'm here for you to sign these papers. I'll file them tomorrow, and then our divorce will be finalized. I just want it to be over," I explained. Lily sighed. "I don't think I've ever been good enough for you, have I? Do you seriously think I'll just stand by and watch?" Without another word, she left the room and returned with a pen. She signed her name hastily on the appropriate pages while I watched carefully. When she finished, she slammed the pen on the table and swiftly gathered everything into a manila envelope. "Free now," she said. "Thanks for signing these. Take care of yourself and find happiness," I replied, turning to her mom. "Deborah, you can come in now. Congratulations to you as well," I said before walking out the door. Driving away, I felt a wave of mixed emotions. I knew this was the end of our relationship, and I couldn't shake the feeling that life was about to change dramatically. A month later, our divorce was finalized, marking the start of a new chapter. Unexpectedly, I received news from Lily's father. He informed me that after our divorce, Lily asked Paul to leave his wife and marry her. However, Paul refused, stating he never had romantic feelings for her. This revelation forced Lily to realize she had to continue her life without either of us. Now Lily lives with her parents, searching for a new job after being fired from her previous one, just like Paul, thanks to my intervention. According to her father, Lily is unhappy. She's had several brief relationships, mostly with married men or those with questionable reputations. These encounters led her to a psychiatric illness, and now she's undergoing therapy to recover. As for me, life went on. The house felt different without her presence, but gradually I found peace in the quietness. I started new hobbies, reconnected with old friends, and took time to reflect on what I wanted for my future. The betrayal left scars, but it also taught me resilience and the importance of self-respect. I realized that sometimes letting go is the best way to find yourself again.